This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. Let's talk about where we are, because you're starting off the year hot. January 1st, you're back in the Omni. Now, listen, guys, I know that sometimes people listen to these shows and they're a little scattered out. You know, you listen to Arn today and maybe you don't listen for 9 days. That's what's great about podcasting. You can listen to these on demand whenever you want. But in case you didn't listen to last week's, I just want to remind you, Arn was working the Omni on Christmas Day. 6 days later, guess where they are? Back in the freaking Omni. So you're probably thinking, well, they killed the town. There couldn't be anybody there. The big show's Christmas. Who the hell would be there 6 days later? Well, how about 12,700 of them folks? Business is good. You know, it's easy for us to say Vince McMahon sabotaged Starrcade. We know that's true. But as far as are people coming through the turnstile to see your product, 6 days apart, 12,700 more there on New Year's Day. That's quite a showing.
That's flabbergasting.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to not have the panic button, you know, sitting there or the lights flashing when you're doing that kind of business. Life was good.
Life was good. And it was especially good if you're Arn and Tully, because you're going to be working 19 minutes in a non-title match against two former Horsemen. Ole and Lex are now on the outside of the Horsemen looking in. So you're taking on Ole and Lex. I never really got to know Ole, but I've seen enough of his interviews to know that he probably had some choice words about teaming with Lex Luger every now and again. What do you remember about these matches?
I would imagine he did. Well, you know what? That's a marquee match. That's for damn sure. Ole was over in Atlanta. He was actually a pretty damn good baby face. Lex was fresh off the angle, so there was a lot of interest, I would imagine, in that match.
I mean, yeah, Ole has been a staple in Atlanta for so long and cut some of the most believable promos. He's really everything Lex is not, which is why on paper, maybe that doesn't make sense. But Arn and Ole were famous for working a body part. Well, that's an Anderson tradition. So Ole's got that down pat. Maybe Lex not as much, but at the same time, boy, look at Lex Luger. He looks better than Hulk Hogan. I mean, what a physique he had in pro wrestling. Maybe that wasn't exactly Ole, but boy, Ole could talk his ass off, and well, maybe that's not Lex. I think they were like a good little yin and yang. I want to go out of my way to try to find some of these matches, because on paper, I agree. Maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense, but when you really look at their skill sets, it lines up. And with a common enemy in the Horsemen, come on, that's good stuff.
They had a story in place that people could sink their teeth into. Orange and Apples are your best tag teams.
Yes.
You don't want teams where guys are trying to work alike and look alike and dress alike and all that. You want two different guys. They just happen to be a team. And if they form a good team, then it's cohesive, then you got something.
And it looks a little bit like the Odd Couple, which is kind of fun. Greensboro, North Carolina, you guys are in the Coliseum the very next day, 12,457 fans. So listen, a lot of people talk about 1988 like it's the nail in the coffin for JCP. We're starting the year with crowds of 12,700 in the Omni and 12,400 in Greensboro. Don't cry for me, Argentina, unless you got Arn's card here. He's working with Lex Luger. Lex is going to get the win. You're probably seeing some progression, though. Listen, a lot of people like to go, oh, LOL, Lex Luger. But the reality is you can't work with Arns and Tullys and guys like that day in, day out and not pick up a thing or two, right?
Well, that was the whole idea. It was teaching him, grooming him, all those things, plus having a marquee match that meant something on the card. There was a lot that went into, at that point in time, nobody knew they were going to be going anywhere or leaving. Our job, we had a fresh baby face in Lex Luger, was to get him as groomed as you possibly can, as quickly as you possibly can. That's the reason he was working with us.
The next day, you're doing a matinee show in Greenville, South Carolina. It's on January 3rd. And Ric Flair is in singles action with Michael Hayes, but you're on after him, Lex Luger and Arn Anderson. And what's interesting is you're a tag team champ. I just love the way they've spread this around a little bit. To recap, it's Tully Blanchard and Jimmy Garvin, Ric Flair and Michael Hayes, Lex Luger and Arn Anderson. The Freebirds and Lex Luger and Ole Anderson, boy, they got issues with the Horsemen. So rather than put them all together, let's just put them in singles matches. We can have quite a card that way, can we not?
Yeah, and you can get those guys wins, and we still have the bragging rights of being tag champion. That was the theory there, I think.
That same show, we see Sting beat Eddie Gilbert. We talked a little bit about Sting earlier. You and I have never spent any time talking about Eddie Gilbert. I never had the opportunity to meet Eddie. I've heard a lot of people over the years say that he was one of the greatest minds in wrestling, and he's gone way, way too soon. Obviously, he grew up idolizing Jerry Lawler and became one of the kings of Memphis and had some success with the UWF and had a cup of coffee here with the Crockett's, and then started to maybe look on the other side of the business and help with ECW before it was Extreme. Maybe had a series of matches with Cactus Jack that were matches that maybe put independent wrestling on the map way back in 1991. What was your first impression of Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert?
Well, I didn't know Eddie, and I'd not been anywhere for any length of time that he was, but I could respect what the other guys thought of him. They thought he had even though it was a Tennessee-esque frame of mind, he was very entertaining as a performer and as a booker, and had a good mind for doing things the Tennessee way. As far as a performer, I know I worked with him a few times, and I thought he was very, very good. He had a good mind for psychology and athletic, and but his roots were in Tennessee, and you could always tell the guys that were groomed and brought up and watched Tennessee the Memphis show their entire life. You could see that he was pretty deeply embedded in that character.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.